Hello and welcome to the Woodland Wisp. Today I have got a mixed media art switch plate cover for you guys. This piece turned out beautifully and it was really easy to make. So please leave me a like, let me know what you think in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well. Let's get started. So here are my main supplies, and this being my first mixed media art tutorial, I wanted to keep it small and fairly simple, which is why I chose to use a switch plate cover. And I also tried to choose items that I thought would be easy for you guys to find or make. For texture on these, you will need a small piece of tissue paper or something similar. And then I have got some ribbon here. This is just satin ribbon, and I've also got this silver stuff. This is really pretty, and I think I purchased it at the dollar store. It was called Wedding Bling Tape, and this is kind of thick, but I was going to trim it down, and I think it looks really nice over the top of that ribbon. For my main embellishments today, I am going to be using these clay pieces. I've got my steampunk stitched hearts here, and I've also got this skull rose. And I am not going to be using these particular pieces today. I have some smaller ones that I think will do better on this switch plate cover, but I do have tutorials for both of these pieces available on my channel. And I am going to pair those with some of these puzzle pieces. And then for my smaller filler elements, I've got some tiny metal gears here, some small clay flowers. These were made with a silicone mold. They are little daisies, and I just used these small ones here in the center. I've got some assorted screw heads here that are also made out of clay, and then I've got some fine silver glitter that I am going to work in there as well. Now these little pieces here are drips, and I do want to show you guys really quickly how I use these. This is very effective in mixed media, and it is usually accomplished with some type of wax. Now in the past I have used sealing wax, I've used candle wax, even crayons. I've done this with hot glue, paint, and texture paste, and it is nothing but trouble. I make mine out of polymer clay, and they are easy to make. They're just as effective, and there is a lot less risk of them scratching, chipping, or breaking off. And in addition to these materials, I will also be using some Mod Podge, several different colors of paint, and glue. I am going to start by making a nice textured background. So I have got some tissue paper here, and I am going to begin by just crumpling this up. If you don't have tissue paper, coffee filters and newspaper both make really great substitutes. It doesn't matter what color it is because we're going to be painting these when we're done. Just crumple that up and then unfold it so you have this nice wrinkled texture on there, and make sure you have enough to cover your piece. And then I have got a large paintbrush and some Mod Podge here, and I am just going to put a nice layer of Mod Podge on the whole thing. And then I'm going to add that tissue paper, and I've got a smaller brush now, and I am using a little bit more Mod Podge here on the top. And you don't want to stretch this over, kind of pinch it and push those wrinkles around with your paintbrush or your fingers. We just really want that, as much of that wrinkled texture as you can manage on the surface there. And you can tear and add additional pieces of tissue paper in areas where you feel like you need more texture, or if you accidentally happen to rip through that with your finger or your brush. And I'm just going to set this aside and let it dry completely before we add paint. This is what that texture looks like, and I did trim down the edges and then I just folded them over and secured them down with some Mod Podge on the back side so it looks nice and clean. And now we are going to add, we are starting with some black paint, and I'm using that same large brush. And I am just going to coat the entire front surface here and all of the edges in that black. And once that is dry again, I will begin adding some color. So I've got that smaller brush again, and I am using this Velvet Crush, and I am going to be applying this to the upper and lower opposite corners here. And now I've got this lavender sachet, and I am going to be adding that just below and above that purple on both sides, kind of blending it down. And then I'm going to come back in with that Velvet Crush, and I am just going to blend this seam a little bit better. And the last color is called Pink Parfait, and that is what we are going to be using in the center. And I am going to do 2 coats of this because I want a nice bright color there. And after this is dry again, we will begin adding embellishment. I am going to run a length of that black satin ribbon across the bottom and top of this piece, and I am just centering this between the hole for the screw and the lower edge there, and I am applying this with E6000, and I am going to do the same thing on the top. And I have 2 of these tiny little stitched hearts, so I am going to place them right in the center on both the top and the bottom. And then I have just trimmed down some small pieces of this silver stuff, and I am just going to tuck that underneath that heart, and I want to leave a little bit of space there on the side to add some of those screw heads. Here it is, and I am super happy with the way that these pieces look together. I want to trim up some more of this silver stuff and use it to frame the hole for the switcher itself as well. Here are those smaller roses that I made, and I have painted all of my puzzle pieces black, so I am going to go ahead and arrange these how I want them really quick before I glue them down. Here it is, and I added some of those clay drips on the bottom and top here, and I love the way that this looks right now. I do want to add some glitter before things get too crowded here, so I am just dabbing on a little bit of that Mod Podge with my finger, and I am going to dust it with some fine silver glitter. Here is that silver glitter, and now we can add some of the smaller background elements. Here are my little clay daisies that I have also painted black. I've got 2 different sizes, and I am going to place them on opposite corners of the switcher here, and the larger ones I'm going to place on opposite corners right here by that ribbon. And I do want to add gears in here too, but let's get these pieces painted first. I've got this metallic purple. I think this is a folk art paint, and I am going to be putting this on all of those puzzle pieces first. This one is called Blue Sapphire. It is another folk art metallic, and I am just putting this on the exposed outside edge of each one of these puzzle pieces. I am using 2 different pinks for the daisies. I am going to start with this Diva Pink. And while those dry, I am going to go ahead and paint those drips. And I am using green. This is another folk art paint. It's one of their color shift ones, and I think it will really make these strips stand out. Here they are, and now I'm going to go ahead and add some of this color shift. This is Rose Pastel, and I am just going to brush that lightly over those pink daisies. Here it is. I did go ahead and add some of those tiny gears in there, and I also added some more of those screw heads, one to each one of these puzzle pieces, and I am so pleased with the way that this looks. I am going to take my large brush and give it one more thin coat of Mod Podge. Here it is, guys, and this piece is now ready to go back on the wall. That is it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed making this piece. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time.